Well, what I was going to say was, those are good problems to have. Living next to the ocean is one of my dreams one day.
Yeah.
So hopefully it happens. But
It's gonna happen.
seriously.
It's gonna happen.
So you're Jill,
Yes.
and thank you for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think we're gonna have a great time. You're an author, you're a coach, you're a teacher, all the above.
Yep.
What got you, take us all the way back? What got you started on this journey? What made you want to choose this path? Is this something that you've always wanted to do?
Okay, no. So when I was little, I definitely did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for being here. Second of all, the Thinking Project is the best title. Third of all, I'll answer your question. I just need to give it a chance to say those things. What made me want to do this? I'll just rewind to about a decade ago when I was working as a consultant. So I've reinvented myself a few times. I first thought I was going to be an artist. I was gonna be in theater, and then I actually did okay in theater. I don't know why, because at one point I saw myself on TV and I was horrible, and I was like, I am clearly the worst person in this production. I ruined it for everybody else, and so I quit the theater and decided to become a chef. And then I opened a restaurant with my twin brother, who's an amazing chef, but really over time, it turned out that I really wasn't that great at cooking either. So I opened a restaurant with him, but we actually had an internationally famous restaurant because he was actually that good. So I did well in the restaurant industry, sold that, just felt empty. I remember saying to him one day, yeah, we've done really well, but if this is all we ever do, this is all we ever achieve, like at 30 at the time.
Yeah.
Well, like if I sit up from my grave, will I look back on my life and go, yeah, or I go, gee, something was missing. And I kind of at that point thought, gee, something would be missing. And I spent a decade from 30 to 40 trying to figure that out. Didn't really work. Ended up in consulting. And then I got hit by a car. Many of us have, right? So it's not that unique of a story. It was 18 months of recovery is more unique. And a lot of brain stuff that had to be recovered. And once again, it was like, I need something more fulfilling. And so it turns out that teaching and coaching business, my parents were entrepreneurs. My grandparents were entrepreneurs. It was in the family. And I grew up sometimes having food to eat and sometimes not having food to eat, and teaching entrepreneurs how not to put their livelihood at risk was really important to me, because I had seen, the highs and the lows. We had done really well in our restaurant. And then after 9/11, we were really hit. Like that was way that long ago. We were really hit. And then, we came back up, and I did well because I had an education in how to run businesses. That was, by the way, the one thing I was eventually good at something.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you didn't do too bad in the restaurant industry. If you're able to
we did well, but it was interesting. It wasn't transferable knowledge. Doing well in the restaurant industry is not why I'm good at businesses. It was actually, I opened another business and that flopped. And so what I ended up sort of realizing over time is just because you have one success, you don't necessarily know how to reverse engineer success.
Yeah.
And I became a consultant and I really enjoyed that. And then I just wanted more, like, I think anyone who's an entrepreneur, we want more freedom. We want to control, our lives. We're unemployable.
But you're not wrong though. You're not wrong though, because a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, they just have that itch, and they would rather bet it all on them. You know what I mean? And they would rather lose betting on them than win betting on someone else.
Oh my gosh, Dalton.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally. Like I did that. So, okay. So then so 40, I have this life crisis, this car accident, and I realized I don't want to consult anymore. I'd been helping kind of not very nice people make money off of the backs of their workers. It was making me sick to my heart. And I was like, what am I going to do? But then I went into like 6 figures of medical debt.
Mm,
So I actually did go
yeah.
back to consulting. I was smart. I got better clients after that. But
Yeah.
but I
So when you,
still made money for other people, and it drove me crazy. Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, you had that experience with having a few people that you were helping, you didn't agree with their trajectory. You didn't agree with their business plan or whatever.
Yep.
You just cut them off. You're just like, look, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't do it.
Well,
They're
actually, what
fine.
ended up happening is the universe cut them off because I got hit by a car and
Oh, okay.
I literally couldn't even finish jobs that I was on. Like I
Oh,
had a
geez.
lot of brain stuff that I had to recover from.
Yeah.
So that was actually taken,
Geez.
that opportunity to help those people was taken away from me, which is great. And then I was wiser about getting better clients, but I was
Mhm.
still working by the hour, making people a lot of money with my business development skills. And that was very frustrating to me.
Yeah. So even in a consulting position, helping someone else, am I hearing that right? Like helping other people make the money for themselves was still not fulfilling for you.
Well, I liked parts of it, but
Sure.
the nature
Sure.
of the consulting that I was doing, so I would work in an entrepreneurial company that was maybe 10 years old, and
Yeah.
so the entrepreneur would be all like, "This is great, this is exciting, go fix my team," and the team was like, "I don't wanna be fixed."
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, that's tough. No, that's
so
tough.
what I actually decided, so it's interesting to yeah, what I actually decided was I don't want A to pay me to fix B.
Oh, okay.
So I just wanted to work with, so sometimes B would be like, "Yay, this is such an amazing, exciting opportunity for me to develop my career." And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah, yeah.
be like, "Leave me alone. We've been doing it this way for 15 years. Who are you?"
Yeah,
You
right.
know, and I've always looked younger than I am, and so they think I was like 10 years old trying to tell them about their
Right.
business. It's like I once went to
Right.
Singapore and a client, they literally looked at me and they were like, You're a woman, you're a woman, you're from Canada, and what are you, like, 20?" And I was like, "Not." I was and I was like, "Ugh,"
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so some people were into it, but mostly I just made this declaration, like, I only
Mhm.
wanna work with people who are signing up for their own success.
Mm, yeah. People who wanna be there.
Yeah.
People who wanna be there. I think this is why I'm drawn to coaches. I love teaching personally, um, because there is, like, I find a lot of success, and I understand what you're saying because 'cause I've kinda been on both sides like you. I've been, in sales, like, my whole career, like, I'm a sales guy, sales, manager and stuff like that in my career, and, one of the hardest things about going in and helping someone with their sales team is exactly what you described. I had an experience where I was, helping, like, just give some tips to a sales team, and yeah, same thing. They're like, look, we know it all, and and they're like, and even if we don't really want to switch, like we don't really have time. And I was just like, all right, dude, fine, like I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, hey, look, dude, my favorite thing though, even though it's frustrating, is like my favorite thing to do is, look, your owner already cut the check, man, so I don't have to be here. Like, I just gotta like, there's no refunds. So like, if you don't want me here, I'll leave because I don't
Okay.
care.
That cracks me up because I did something very similar. So that
Yeah,
same job when I was out in Singapore, they were all aghast that I was a woman. Okay. They were like,
yeah, which
"You're
is
from
weird. Which is
Canada." Yeah,
yeah.
because the person who hired me purposely didn't tell them, right? So because they knew. So
Okay.
then
That's weird
so
flex.
then I got there and they were all really mistrustful. You set up at, the head of the table and they're going around the
Yeah,
corner
yeah.
table and all the spaces like around the head of the table were empty, you
Jeez.
know? But the thing is I always set up at the opposite end, like a
Okay.
bogus person, and then I always move and stand next to the people who wanted to be the furthest away from me. So that's one of my little jokes. And then
Yeah.
and I said, "So And they were like, blah, blah, blah. What do you know? And they were just telling me to my face. I said, listen, you guys have hit a plateau in your organization. None of you know how to fix it because you brought me in. I know how to fix it and have actually successfully done that for other organizations. But I'm happy to have a great holiday in Singapore. I have never been here before.
Yeah.
Class and the hotel is paid, so I'm cool if I just go have a good time. Or if you want to see I know something about your problem, then we can hang out and you can try me out. And they ended up extending my stay, paying for some time in Bali to pull in teams from Malaysia and India to work with me. So it ended up working really well.
Good for you. But that's kind of what you need, though. I've always felt like that's kind of what's missing. Like we've gone into this, not to say this in like a bad way, but I think, like I heard an author, one of my favorite sales authors, Jeb Blunt, he described it as hyper empathy.
Yeah.
So we've gone into this like very empathetic and like I'm an empath, or at least I try to be, right? I try to be very empathetic. Like I get where people are coming from. It's a very useful tool. But you go into this hyper empathy, and where I think a lot of people miss the boat is like where to have confidence and empathy, and where like those mix, right? Like look, I want to help you. I want what's best for you, but money already cleared, man. I don't like, if you don't want me here, I don't need to be here. But like, so like, what do you know what I mean? What do you do with that?
I love that. So I think highly empathic. And I think they feel at first they're not sure how to take it.
Yeah.
And there's an idea that comes from, my training. I have a master's in leadership, and one of the, and even coaching, right? My coaching certifications, there's just a concept that we hold people capable. And so the concept is maybe what is empathy, right? Is empathy allowing people to get in their own way? Or is it actually taking a stand for someone? Yeah. I know perfectly well they're not going to send the consultant away to go swim I wish they did. But
yeah.
Just kind of saying, you know what? If you don't show up with some degree of I'm interested, this isn't going to work. So I might as well just go have fun on this holiday, and let's just not pretend we're all trying to make something work when you're not really showing up. So in some ways it's sort of empathy.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to say. It's something I've learned to say because I need people to show up for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and can you hear me okay, by the way?
I can. Yes.
Okay, great. I had to put headphones on. I was starting to hear echoes. Okay. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like it's empathetic to tell people like, you guys have to want this. Otherwise, like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like I want you to want it. I want to do this. I want to be here. But at the end of the day, like, it's not going to, I'm also not going to I also have boundaries, you know what I mean? And I think that's a great point. I thought that confidence was missing in a lot of people. And I learned that lesson that you were talking about, the hard way. Cause I like one of the lessons that you were talking about was like being interested in people who want to invest in themselves. Like that's got to be the key, because I used to give all my stuff. Like I remember I was in a sales organization. I had spent a lot of money on my own personal development, like while I was in sales, and I'd done all the books and courses and whatever. And I had collected all these handouts. Like I kept everything. Every time I went to a seminar and somebody handed something out or they had a book, like I kept it. And so I had everything. And I was like, look, you can sit down with me. I'll give you all the stuff. I'll give it to you for free. Like I spent thousands, but you don't have to do that. You just got to listen to me. And like, no one did it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, look, this isn't mine, but if I'm going to take 30 minutes to teach you about this, you're going to have to pay me. You're going to have to give me a half deal, or you're going to have to do something. And then people listened.
Yep.
I was like, this is ridiculous, man. I don't get it, but I guess I do now. I didn't then, but I do now. And it's ridiculous.
It is. Well, we're more comfortable, even with the clients I work with, right? We're more comfortable with sort of the thing we know. Like we're more afraid of losing something than we are of gaining, right? That's like just a human motivation. I'm sure in sales, you know that. And so
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of my background from change leadership and even helping people build businesses now, it's so much psychology is involved, like so much psychology. I actually, I love people who are in sales because I have learned they have done like you just have to do so much self-development to be
Yeah.
able to handle those no's, right? You have to you have to develop who you are. You have to do so much good stuff in terms of, so I'm really into like neuroscience and behavioral science and how does that all impact all of this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I find sales is kind of cool because you can't be in sales and not develop yourself.
Right.
Unless you have like literally no emotions. Right?
Well, then you're not really a good salesperson. You just start pissing people off.
Fair enough. Sales is service. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. And that's one of the reasons that drew me to sales was because like and again, like one of the things I thought was missing was like this confidence aspect. And yeah, like the good ones do. You got to be able to take the nose and be really comfortable in your own skin because usually like I would say 90% of the time the no's not personal.
Yeah.
You know, it just is what it is, and so you just move on. And I hate it. The saying is what it is, but I haven't found a better one. So if you got a better one, I'm all ears.
I'll work on that. Yeah, no, like that was like all. So the confidence piece is interesting because confidence has come up.
Yeah, tell me more.
Yeah. So confidence, somebody asked me like, how would you describe yourself? And I don't know, I listed these things. It was for some personality profile.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And it was like, what kind of leader are you? Blah, blah, blah. It was another coaching program I'm in. And I'm like, confidence, work in progress. Where do you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, all this stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm like, how do I rate myself? And I thought, well, if you would ask my clients and like students and people in my communities, they'd be like, she's so confident. But I am, and I'm always striving like for more, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm really driven. So I have like literally a mission to save people's lives through their businesses. I am called to help people not risk their livelihood and the livelihood of their families. I saw it happen. Like we didn't have enough to eat growing up. We lost our family home. So I've really seen people lose a tremendous amount through going into business for themselves, uninformed, right? So I'm deeply passionate. So because of my cause and because of my passion behind what I do with my clients, I come across as confident. But if I just wanted a nice life business, I already created that. I want to get out there and help people save their businesses and not make huge mistakes that a lot of people have no clue. They're spending tons of time on things they don't need to. That's what my book, It's Go Time, kind of gets into.
Nice.
And, because I'm constantly trying to push, like reach more people, get the message out, help them do the right things in business, I'm constantly pushing myself into areas like I haven't been into before. And that causes new levels of confidence because I'm constantly doing, like I have an article in Forbes about imposter syndrome. And I'm like, well, I realized if you don't have imposter syndrome, there's actually a bit of a problem. That means you're happy with the status quo.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Because, oh yeah, I'm good at this. I've done it. If I just always did the same thing over and over, then well, of course I wouldn't have imposter syndrome. But if I'm always striving for like, oh, let's go here, like, I'm here on this planet to like, I don't know, like become the best I can. Like, I'm like one of those people, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, how can I grow? How can I help the most people? How can I have been of service? And that's always going to require me reaching out of my comfort zone. That's going to take confidence that I have to find from somewhere, like clean the socks where they're from. And then and just put on a brave face. But sometimes even my team members look at me and like they see me just like, they see me go, I don't know what to do. And they're like,
wow. I call that there's a few things I call it, but I like pregame jitters, right? Because I think if you go into a thing and you're not nervous, something's wrong, right? Yeah. So I played sports all growing up, but my favorite one was wrestling. And if you weren't like, if you didn't have pregame jitters, if you weren't a little nervous to like go out, wrestle against your next opponent, or like you went to a tournament and you weren't nervous. You were at the wrong tournament. You were wrestling the wrong person.
There you go. Right. And so
You're just in the wrong place.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like what is making you not feel this is a competition?
Right.
Even Muhammad Ali, man.
Yeah.
I love Muhammad Ali. I know it's like, but I just think of him when I think of someone who could have all the confidence in the world.
Yeah.
And even he would, he would take his matches seriously.
Right. Absolutely. So now your book, It's Go Time.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about that. I mean, I want to talk, a lot about that actually, but, you brought up that, you like helping business owners, focus on things like stop focusing on problems that they shouldn't be worried about. Focus on stuff that they should start doing.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you see business owners doing that maybe they're doing, what are some of the things that they're missing? What are some of the things that you see most commonly like go wrong? Like what can people, just from this quick podcast that we do, like what can people just start to like be aware of?
So I mean, I think it's a little bit different for product businesses, tech businesses, and talent-based businesses. So would you say and I've had experience with them all. My own major expertise now is with talent-based businesses, like expertise businesses, but in consulting, I worked with the gamut. I've worked with over 20 industries.
Yeah,
so what would you say the listeners would want to hear?
Oh yeah. You know what? A lot of us, I think a few of us have products, but a lot of us are service-based, like businesses, right?
So focusing, because the thing is, when you're talking about a bigger business, it's different. So I'm just going to preface this and say, I'm answering this for those of you who are listening, who are actually selling your talent, knowledge, expertise, and time. That is what It's Go Time was written for, that audience. So I'd say the thing that people are doing, so the thesis, if you will, of It's Go Time is there is a lot to do as a business owner, right? More than can humanly be done by a person. It's not possible, right, to be good at operations, team building, development, leadership, sales, marketing, vision, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the only hope one has, right, in my opinion, is to really understand the order of operations that gives you the greatest leverage.
Yeah.
Right. There's projects that give you leverage, and there's projects that don't. And I could give you an example of something that was sort of came up in a group that I was talking about today, which was when to do your website. So a lot of people do their website at like way the wrong time. And websites can actually be a detriment and lead to people making less money and struggling longer. Because so a lot of people, they're like, they get going and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I need a website. And it's like, no, you need market validation.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You do, because websites can actually be client and money repellent if they are using your words. Websites that are effective are actually pulling words out of not your clients' mouths, well, some testimonials, but your ideal target's mouths. So the language and vernacular that somebody has prior to getting their problem solved, because people understood the problem they have. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know you've got smart. I'm going to say, like, there's smart listeners here.
Yes,
so I'm going to I'm going to treat everyone like they're really smart. Any problem can be solved for free, right? Through books and on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's fair.
Elon Musk gave away his Tesla.
Yeah.
So if you know the right questions to ask, you don't really need to pay someone. So what's the problem? The problem is that you have the answer and you don't know how to apply it without a coach, or you don't have the right question. So bring that back to the website. Someone goes to your website and they don't know the problem they have, and you're telling them all this stuff, but it's from your mind that's already solved the problem. It's like literally there's a gap there, and you can't see each other. Sometimes the language will come across condescending. Sometimes it will come across like very egomaniac. So, and I've done this, I know, because I was condescending and I was an egomaniac in my website.
Yeah, I get it.
Please
Me too.
The kettle is black here. So
that's fine.
yeah, no, it's like, just So that is one of the things that makes a real mistake. So the better time to do your website is get market validation, find out what people are saying before you've helped them, grab that language, that pain, that suffering, get that really clear on the website, and then make your website all about the outcome. And the hero, is definitely your client, not you. So that's the kind of thing that usually with my clients, I have that in stage 3 of their build. I do a 4-stage build with people, and you can make lots of money. I mean, you can make $500,000, $250,000 without a website. There's no need to start there. It could, and the problem is, like, and I did this, I had this like glitzy website. I paid all sorts of money for it, whatever. Big smile. My hair was even blowing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so bad. And I like, my business went down to zero. A marketing friend she's like, that's not like you. You're a very nice person. You kind of look like a in this website. She's like, you should really take it down. And then and she said, why don't you just put up your like name and one sentence about what you do and your email, just leave it that. And that was way better. My like money started coming in again.
Wow. Well, yeah, you know what? I think people definitely look beyond the mark. Like, you got, you got to have a fancy website. You got to have it all. But yeah, the content is more important. And I like what you said there. I had to learn about that. Sales in person is not the same as sales online.
Nope.
It's not the, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I had to learn sales copy. And that was it, right? It's like, I had a really great conversation with an entrepreneur on my podcast with a business owner. And I go, so how do you find customers? And he goes, and I'll never forget it. He was like, I listen for people. The people who want to work with me are the people who say, I can't find what I'm looking for. He was like a custom wood worker. And so he's like, if I hear somebody say, I can't find what I'm looking for, I know I'm with the right person. He's like, so I get people, because he's like, if you can buy, he's like, if what you're describing to me is on Amazon, he's like, I'll just tell you to go to Amazon. He's like, because that's not what I need.
Why am I going to do that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which I thought was like great. And he absolutely crushes it, absolutely kills it. And he tells people all the time, he's like, yeah, you can buy that on Amazon for $30. You don't need to pay me $1,000 to do it.
Perfect.
And I'm like, all right, that works for me, man.
Well, that's proper sales, right?
Yeah,
it's really matching what you do and do best, and knowing your ideal kind of client, and 100%. And that's actually why I stopped selling through sales pages.
Yeah.
Because I realized we couldn't match people. People would self-identify as being in a very different place in business than they actually were. And then they would come into my early, stuff, and then they wouldn't get the results, and I'd be like feeling terrible.
Yeah.
So I just realized we have to get on the phone and match people. And it's like, hey, and some people come in, they're more advanced and they don't know they're more advanced. So, that's the other thing that happens.
Oh, geez.
So sometimes people have actually progressed beyond a stage in business, and I can think of, and they don't progress to the next step. So I teach like 4 steps. I teach like begin with an idea you believe in, and that takes usually a couple of months to really, and not in a business plan, but to really actually like get the right idea. Then you do market validation. Then you systemize your sales and delivery of your sales. Then you scale with ads, PR, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to, I like to say, build Disneyland before you pick up the microphone and tell everyone to go to Disneyland.
Right.
And that's more about having your service and your sales systems in place. And so I just find that sometimes people actually just don't leave a step. They're like, they build it all and blah, blah, blah. And then they just kind of like, let's say someone's proven their market, they've proven their idea, they get their testimonials, they have their case studies, they do their website, they do their funnels. They're like, and then they don't tell anyone. Like I have somebody who keeps saying to me, like, where is everybody? And I'm like, what are you doing to promote?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Like, you don't just put it up. It doesn't just, the
red. This isn't like I'm from Iowa, so I was this isn't the Field of Dreams. You're right. It's like if you build it, they won't come.
That's right. You have to you build it, and then you have to say, hey. And what's
Yeah.
interesting, that was really hard for me because as a restaurateur, I was taught if you're I love that you said that sales in person is different than online. Like, I just think that's such an important thing that you said, because I think a
Yep.
lot of people don't understand that, they take it personally. And they're like, then it becomes about
Yeah.
them, and then it's not that. It's a different game online. The language has
Yeah.
to be so exact. And I remember I was told, you're only good in the restaurant business if you take off naturally, right?
Ah,
If
that's weird.
you have to advertise, you're terrible. And my
Hmm.
first restaurant did take off like a worldwide sensation. It was like,
Oh, wow.
oh my God, we had press all around the world. And so for the years, my business struggled because I wouldn't leave a step and I wouldn't advertise. I'm like, well, if I'm any good, then it will just take off naturally. I don't have to advertise or do PR or anything. And then I realized, like, that was wrong thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about and like I think it's also interesting to point out like there's industries are different. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But yeah, when you're talking about restaurant, that might be a great way. I mean, I would still want some I would still want to do something for a restaurant, but
Why not get the word out? Why not hire
yeah.
a PR person? Why not? There's nothing. But I was taught like there was something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
I
that's weird.
thought, and I have people from hospitality, reinventing
Uh-huh.
themselves in different businesses, and they have the same thing. They're like, oh gosh, like, and
Yeah.
then you realize, look, you actually still have to be really good. You can't advertise online to garbage. Like, the word gets out pretty quick. People
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people will. So the thing is, you still have to be amazing.
Yeah.
And that's cool that we have this global economy so that when you don't have to rely on the neighbors next door anymore. You can really
Right.
start thinking about, like, wow, who are the people who I could help all around the world? It
All
really
over.
becomes exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what inspired you to write your book and I mean obviously coaching from experiences is what you do and then you write the book. How does the book come into play in your story and what was writing it like? What was that process like?
Well, I'm going to pick the last question.
Okay.
It was horrible to write the book. It was
Oh
very
yeah.
painful.
I've heard
Writing,
that by the way
yeah,
from a
it's
few
like,
authors I've interviewed.
yeah, I'm dyslexic.
Okay.
Growing up, I was really humiliated by teachers I even had a teacher, I did all my homework like backwards, and I had a teacher in grade 2 put me in the corner. I did my work correctly. I just did it backwards, and she put me in the corner and called me dumb and told my friends not to be friends with me. It was like
Whoa.
vicious stuff.
Holy crap.
It was bad. And so, you could say that I had a little bit of a hang up through school. I had like a twin brother who's a wrestling champion, and then scouted for professional football. I had older brother who was like created like one of the first intelligent chess programs. We're Canadian. He got an invite to be American, like right then and there when he graduated
Oh
University of America. He's like,
wow.
sure. I had a sister who was amazing at the arts and sports. And here I was like, I'd get C's and D's, and everybody would always expect that from me. Like, everyone would be like,
Wow.
that's good, Jill.
Oh jeez.
So there's very low expectations
Jeez.
of me. It was tough. And so writing the book was like a soul exfoliation, like you can't you can't imagine. So I
Sure.
literally called to write this book because I have seen too many people, including my family, my father, lose their shirts to entrepreneurship. Go in it, say everything's fine when everything's not fine. Pretend we're all okay and pretend the kids are eating when I had to buy all my own clothes from I was 11 with paper routes and stuff like that because we didn't have money. We lost our family home during my teens.
Jeez.
I moved out when I was like 16. It was tough. And I just saw this lack of knowledge because the problem is so many business books are written with totally unrelatable examples. Like, let me tell you how to be good at business. For
Yeah.
example, you know what Steve Jobs did? Oh, it's so helpful.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? So we're learning about Amazon, right? We're
sure.
learning about Facebook and Amazon and Apple. And you know why? Because those stories are public domain, just to explain to people why authors do that. It's not because authors are trying to be insensitive. It's because private companies that aren't publicly traded don't have these stories available because entrepreneurs often keep them under their lid. So one of the things I wanted to do with so my partner is in academia. I also teach at, or used to, I don't really need to do that anymore, but at executive education, one of the top educations in the world. And that's why I asked you that question, who is your audience?
Hmm.
Because I can answer these questions for bigger businesses. But when
Hmm.
you're just starting out, there is not good widespread education on the order of operations to build a business by yourself from your home based on your talents.
Hmm.
And interestingly, how we do it is similar to how a larger business would do it, but we have to break it down differently because we're alone and we don't have
Yeah.
the same size of teams and the same size of budget. So that's why I wrote it honestly. If you want to just, what do I say to myself? I wrote it to save lives because
Yeah.
I think when a family doesn't have money to feed their kids, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that was my family.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
an incredible story.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And you know what, as you're talking about the book and everything, I'm just so many things in my head, like that's exactly what, why I started my podcast, was to kind of break down, to get like the person next door, because people, I get flack for this all the time and I don't really care because I believe this, that like, I mean, I don't think people like really want to be like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Like, I'm sure somebody listening to me might end up like that, and that's fine. You know what I mean? But like, I'm talking about a majority. Like, people are like, they won't start their business, or they think they're failing at their business because they didn't start it in their garage and now they don't have $1 million. You know what I'm saying? When it's
Absolutely.
like, you might not even want that lifestyle. Like, I
Yeah,
just
so
want you to
if I
be.
think of like Grant Cardone, right?
Oh yeah.
So super cool, but you
Yeah.
might not want that lifestyle either. So the
Right.
people who come to me are lifestyle people. They want better lifestyle. They are older, typically.
Yeah.
50 to 60, really skilled at what they're doing, and they want nice life businesses. They're
Yeah.
like, they usually want between 250 and 500 a year. And what's more important to them is that they have lots of time to enjoy their lives. And a lot of
Right.
them, and that is definitely what I tend to appeal to. Now, are there a couple of my clients who are like, the cool thing about a business is once you get it to 250 to 500, you could scale it or just enjoy it.
Yeah, for no, seriously.
So
And, but
you,
and that's what but that's why I do, like, that's who I talk to, are the people who are like, look, I don't want to be like, I don't, like, me personally, I don't want to be Elon Musk. Like, I don't, I've had, and I haven't had any of anywhere near the success he has, but I've tasted some corporate life. I've tasted some, you know, other scenarios where, like, you have a lot of money, but you have people that you answer to, like, literally people who are like, look, I'm paying you a lot of money. If you don't answer the phone, like, all of that goes away. I've had that kind of lifestyle, that demand that, and that kind of life,
no, it's,
that demands that, and I'm like, I don't want it. And some people do, some people like it. Sure, dude. And if that's your cup of tea, go drink it. But like, I know that there's more people like me who are like, look, dude, I want to make good
yeah.
money. I want to have a camper and I want to go enjoy my life.
Okay, 100%. And that's interesting because that's definitely who, I can think of somebody who came to work with me. He was a former larger entrepreneurial client. Then he came to, and we talked about having integrity in sales. And he was like, I want to be at 2 million in a year. And I went, I don't know how to get you there.
Right.
Like, I don't know how to get you there. I know how to get you to 250 probably in 14 months. And then from then you can scale, but I don't know how to get you to 2 million. And I said, you really need to
Yeah.
go because I'm not going to make you happy. And I can't get everybody to that, even to that level. I could get him to that level because I knew what his contacts were. Not
Yeah.
even everybody can get to that level that fast. And I was like, listen, you've got a great, And I don't know if he's, and then I just said, and by the way, I wouldn't start there. I'd start with this other project, which he did do. But I was like, that's the thing. Like, I don't know how to scale. Like, if someone else knows how to do that, go work with them. Because I have a very methodical, because I'm more into methodical, safe builds that make sure the homestead is okay.
Which is all that some people want. That's why I did this, right? Is like there's people living right next door to you. Like we focus on Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, Grant Cardone. We focus on these guys and they're like our idols. And by the way, I've read all of Grant Cardone's books. I have every single one of them. He started out in car sales.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And he started out in car sales. So all of his early coaching stuff is car sales. Then he went to real estate and has never looked back. And anyway, but like I love those guys. Like I follow them, all of them. But it's like, but you think you compare yourself to them when there's a guy right next door who owns a multi-million-dollar business, who lives the life you want to live, who works as much as you want to work, who would actually go to lunch with you if you asked him, if you even got to know your neighbor, right? Good luck. Warren Buffett just sold. Warren Buffett had that auction. He auctions off a charity dinner. The last auction, Warren Buffett, to have dinner with Warren Buffett, the last auction went over $12 million.
Yeah, I mean,
good luck, dude. Good luck.
Okay,
but the guy right next door will do it for free.
Yeah, and I have a friend who puts together very high-end events for some of the biggest names. I don't think I'll say the names.
Sure. You're fine.
But she said, like the top names, like everybody would know. There's nobody who
you know them, yeah.
And she puts together events, and she just said, if you have to pay to be at that dinner table, you didn't make the connection.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And I was like,
that's good point.
Like, the real connections are behind the scenes. They're behind the curtain. Those are the connections that you want to make. I have completely agreed with. I think these. Oh, you know what I was going to tell you?
Yeah.
People come in, so they tell me what they want. Obviously, like I work with people, it's like, so what do you want? And I have noticed a common thread that actually holds people back from building.
Okay.
Really successful businesses is the design. I do talk about this in It's Go Time. I talk about this in chapter 5, I think even. Yeah. That when people come in with the goal of being famous, they typically don't do as well as the people who come in with the goal of helping people. I want to do a business because I want to help people. I mean, just how does that sound? Versus like, I want to do a business because I want to be on whatever show and be celebrated, right? And
probably not going to happen.
Yeah, but the thing is, but it's also like the motivation is for my fame. So if someone says to me like, and so I always have to talk to them and say, listen, I know you probably didn't think it came across like this, but you're saying you don't really want to help people because you want to help people. You're saying you want to help people so that Oprah will recognize you. Are you sure that's what you want? And usually, we'll talk and we'll find their other motivations, but there can be this, and I honestly, Dalton, I mean, I think this comes back to this self-confidence piece that we were talking about. We are so hungry to be seen for who we are. And it's like, oh my God, I finally got this validation. And yet the validation, it's got to be something we work on, and it doesn't come from the outside.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, a book that changed my life. And I actually want to ask you about like books that you read and books that you like. Like I love reading because so I have a similar story. I have like ADHD and stuff like that. And so school was really hard for me. I grew up thinking like the public education system, like I grew up thinking that I hated books. Like I hated reading. I didn't like it. But I just didn't like because then my uncle handed me a book. I also am I like religious history, like all religion. I just like that kind of stuff. And he handed me a religious history book. Like, I think it was like, I can't remember, but it was like a religion book. And I read it in 2 days. And it was like, it was a hefty book. And I was like, it's just interesting.
All of a
But
sudden, you're interested in devouring
yeah,
books. Yeah.
yeah. Now I'm like, oh, I like, and then I found like self-help books, and I found this philosophy genre, and I found these, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I can get down with this. But I read a book by Mark Manson called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah.
That's the title.
Yeah. No, I know the book.
Right, okay. Um, I used to say The Subtle Art, and then I was like, no, but he wrote the whole title, so I'll just say the whole title, and then. But the first chapter of the book is "Don't try." Like, and the idea behind the chapter is what you're saying. It's like, if you can't force these things. Like, if you want to start a business to make $100 million, probably not going to make $100 million. Like, but if you start the business to help 100 million people, you might make $100 million.
You might make it. Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, it makes sense. So, what were some of your inspiration? What some of book inspirations did you have for writing your book, or like?
So my inspirations actually came from academia. So the other reason I guess I wrote my book is that I didn't really feel like what needed to happen was covered in a lot of the self-help books. So I had been reading those for about a decade, and I've read some amazing ones, and they've been inspiring, but I could not figure out for the life of me how to get law of attraction to work on anything I really cared about. So I was like, I mean, I could get the best parking spots, but
or like the worst stuff would happen to me when it rains, it pours, kind of thing.
I became very interested with, because I was a successful consultant. I did know a lot about business, and I knew a lot about goal setting, yada. And I became very interested in, if goals are so effective, why don't all of mine work? Why is there this hit and miss? And, I didn't like the hit and miss. And so I ended up studying the neuroscience underpinnings of why goals work. And it turns out that that's actually very recent research.
Okay. Lay it on me.
It's chapter 4. I'm going to mail you a copy of my book. I'll get your address later and send you one.
Okay.
But it's my book comes out in bookstores in September, actually.
Okay. That's good to know.
So the neuroscience underpinnings of why goals work, there's actually, and then I'm trained in behavioral science. That's how I did my consulting work, which is basically reorganizing your world to make success inevitable and easy. So it's hard when we try to change ourselves, but we can actually move around pieces of our world and our social and environments, and then we automatically change. And so this is sort of like I MacGyver success by doing these things from behavioral science and social psychology and then neuroscience. And I learned that there's a way of setting goals that makes you automatically work on them. So one of the chapters in my book is called Who Needs Willpower? Because if you understand how to set a goal, then you will automatically work toward it, and procrastination just ain't a thing. Yeah. So that is what I started. I was like, well, why don't we all just take a little more effort and set the kind of goals in our subconscious that make us automatically work towards things, so then we don't have to try.
Yeah.
And so I was motivated to write a book before that, but I would say helping people understand how to find their purpose is something I do really differently. And that came through academia, through just my contacts and, reaching out to the best of current academia. Mm-hmm. And then also in neuroscience, because academia, before we see what people are currently researching, there's about 10 years because they have to get it reviewed by their journals, and then they talk about it in their circles. There's usually a couple of years of their research, and then there's another couple of years before they get it established.
Peer
then
reviewed,
they go around to a talk, right. So then it eventually kind of filters down into the consultants and people like me, but I have been able to meet some really top people in their field now, and I was so excited about what I was learning from them. And my book is actually it's like 2 books in one. It's blending all the stuff about how to reprogram yourself as you learn a good, solid business building structure.
That's great. You know what? I think, goals are funky. I've talked about goals a few times. Yeah. But what I wanted to, okay, so there's a lot of people like me, and I'm just going to ask the question about purpose.
Yeah.
So break this down for me, because here's where I'm coming from. And I
Yeah.
like to learn on these podcasts. Like, I feel like I learn more than my listeners do sometimes. But here's the thing. Purpose. What's up with that? Because it's like, what should your purpose be? Because I feel like if I would have defined purpose a while ago for me, I would have been like, oh, I just feel like my purpose changes. But is there one thing you focus on that carries you, or what's up with? Just break it down for
Yeah.
me.
So what
There's a
I
lot of
ended
skepticism around.
Yeah, for
When I
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's a lot of well, there's a lot of different ways of defining purpose. And so I think coming up with a definition about what that is, I certainly looked
Mhm.
for mine for 8 years without success until I met a distinguished professor who is one of the foremost people in the world in the area of how to find your calling. And
Okay.
had a few meetings with him. And he helped me understand what a purpose actually was. Uh, from an academic viewpoint. So I'm not going to satisfy all the millions of possible, like there's as many people, I like to say
Yeah.
there's as many theories as there are theorists. Okay. So I am speaking from an academic viewpoint of what that would be. What I have learned in working with my clients is there's a way of sort of finding out. It's just like what gets you out of bed in the morning, or
Mhm.
what makes you feel intrinsically good, right? Where are you getting the greatest sense of fulfillment? So a lot of people think, I talk about this in my book and also with my students, a lot of people misunderstand a purpose as a project. So I've never seen a purpose that's like build a well or a school or whatever. That's a mission. That's actually a project.
Yeah.
Purposes are actually, if you can't do them by lunch, I say you probably haven't found yours. What I have discovered working with my clients, and I give the entire technique in my book in chapter 5,
All right.
is and I talk about why haven't we found it? Because people don't know what it's going to feel like when you find
Mm.
it. A lot of people think, like I say, what do you think it's going to be like when you find your true purpose? Assuming you thought there was a purpose, Dalton, what do you think it'll feel like when you find your true purpose?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't feel like I would.
Like if you found your
I don't know.
purpose for life, the reason that you're here on this planet, if you found that out, what would you expect that moment to be like?
Uh, yeah, that's a good question. For personally, I don't have big, like, I can count on my hand how many times I've had like these epiphanies where I like everything. For me, it'd probably just feel like a clear day, like waking up on a beach.
Like
I'd be like,
oh,
I'd be like,
clear day.
this is
So
nice.
that's not what a lot of my clients, I like that actually, clear day. A lot of my clients will say, and it's actually similar. It's like this clarity all of a sudden arised. Or a lot of my
Sure.
clients, I joke in the book and I say, you think there's going to be a marching band? We've got your purpose,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we expect it to be this big moment like we see in the movies with fireworks and, all for us. But,
Sure.
or a clear day, even that clarity can be such a relief. But what it's actually is a slow burning ember. It's more of like a no way moment. Really?
Yeah.
Like it's that. And how we
Okay.
find it is you tell a bunch of stories following certain criteria about your past. So your
Okay.
purpose is buried in your past. It's not something that you make up, and it's not something you just do for work. And
Sure.
you tell a bunch of stories about your past, and you go through and you find the common themes. There's a very data driven way to find it. And I usually say, you found it when you get frisson or goosebumps or whatever you want to call it. You think of it, there's actually like an internal ember that clicks on, and you're like, oh my God, that feels so good. And
Yeah.
it's often things like helping people and it's always something you do for yourself and others. It's not some job you have for others. It's usually the biggest thing you had to do for yourself. So it could be like shining a light on beauty. It could be helping, the creation of helping people feel dignified, myself and others feel dignity.
Mhm.
Mine is like watching dreams come true, like little and small, other people as belonging. They're simple concepts that you can execute these by breakfast. They're not, so and the reason it's important to
Yeah.
know this thing about yourself is because it's part of how you train your brain to work on goals without willpower. And we
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
have these concepts that just feel just, and they're demonstrated in stories from our past when we felt really good about ourselves. So I walk people through the entire technique. It's very data driven for sciencey people. And it just walks us through, like, because I have a brain that's dyslexic and I also have a bit ADHD.
Yeah.
So the dyslexic, I need this like process. I need it like do. So I walk people through the process. And whether it's a purpose or just something that makes you feel real good, it actually is extremely important to stimulating the parts of your brain that will help you work on your goals.
Wow. That's incredible. I'm ready for it then. I'm ready for it. You know what though? Now that you say that, some of the best times in my life were like, no way. Like when I was surprised. And I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Or like that shouldn't have worked, but it did. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. And so it's that feeling of like maybe I've had a client who it was like kind of doing the impossible. There's like
Yeah.
little bits of impossible.
Yeah.
So it's not the best times of your life. It's when you felt the best about yourself. So it's
Right.
usually when you did something kind of crummy. Like I've had people tell stories like, oh, it's when I did shoe shining from door to door, or, it's like when I went to visit an aunt, started party with my friends. Like it's not the stories that are just like, it's when I was on a beach and like, I didn't have to work and there's no one bugging me. No, it's not. It's usually more like, I put myself out there in a way that was sort of difficult, and I know I did the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, I absolutely, a lot of people need that, especially the willpower part. I read that in Charles Duhigg's book, the Power of Habit. Creepy book.
Yep.
Fantastic book though.
Yeah, built on behavioral science, that book. Yeah.
Ooh. Man, I learned some stuff in that book that I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah, really good.
That book made me think, or that book scared me. There have been a few books that, like, when I read some stuff, I was like, that's scary almost. You know what I mean? Like, and I've read 3 of them. That one, The 48 Laws of Power, and then Talking with Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. Those books kind of scared me. But like a good scary, it's like, you're like, holy crap, I didn't know you could do that. Or like, holy crap, somebody actually took the time to learn this. Those are some of my favorites. What are some of your favorite books?
Thinking about when I really learned about, change, probably Influencer by a team called Vital Smarts, where they really walk you through a model that shows you how much power we have over our lives that I didn't realize. So that one really changed my life. A favorite book in terms of just life lessons would have been The Art of Possibility by Rosamund and Benjamin Zander, who just like amazing stuff, like just such great thinking tools. And he's like a funny story because he was like this jerk conductor, one of the world's best orchestra conductors. And he was like, famous and really full of himself. And he had a second marriage with this psychologist who taught him all these new ways to think, and he tried it out on his orchestras. So there's a lot of really fun stories from that book.
Wow.
It's cool. It's really, really, really fun. Like one of the ideas in that book, you talked about, one of the ideas was everyone gets an A. You talked about the idea of try from one of the books you read, but this one is like everybody gets an A. And so he did this in university, got in kind of trouble from his thing. He's like, no, look, you're all going to get an A, and you're going to spend the rest of the term proving to me why you deserved it.
Ooh, that's a good one though.
Right?
We did a spiff like that in my sales team so are you familiar with what a spiff is? Like if I say spiff? Okay, so a spiff. So in sales, it's a pretty common term in sales, but a spiff is like extra money. So like cash. Usually, it's like, okay, you have your salary and your commission, if that's how it is, or you have a commission. But then like your manager will come up for the weekend or that month and be like, hey guys, we're not hitting enough calls. So whoever makes the most calls this month gets $100 cash, or whoever does something extra, it's just like this mama don't know money is like what it doesn't, you know what I mean? It's just cash it's just cash.
Love it.
So we had a spiff one weekend, and our general manager was like, we had like, it was a lot of money he handed out. We had like 25 salespeople, and he gave everybody $100, and he said, the spiff this weekend is $100. And then he said, and it's this. He told us what it was. And he's like, but here it is. If you don't hit it, you got to give me the money back.
Oh, and how'd that work?
Oh, it was great. Nobody missed it.
See, and so they talk about,
crazy.
in the book, they say he had everybody write an essay on how they were going to earn their A.
Wow, that's incredible.
Isn't it smart? So
wow. So you're like picturing yourself, because like isn't that's the cognitive, that's why you take notes on paper. That's why we write journals on paper, because it creates that connection, right?
Yeah, and you're proving like, why am I going to do this? And there's all sorts of good things going on in the brain. There's a really good reasons in the brain. So I really loved it. And then I really like my most sticky noted book of all time, highlighted and sticky noted book of all time, goes to the Heath brothers, who wrote Made to Stick. And that is, first of all, the best cover on a book. I've got major cover envy, and you'll see when you look it up. And it's also family's home.
All right, no worries.
I'm gonna get interrupted soon. But it's also hilarious because they have one of the brothers, I can't remember which one, is super funny, and I have like little ticka dogs running towards me. They're cuddles.
All good. Yeah, all good. No
and yeah, it's an amazing book. So those are my three: Influencer, I would say Made to Stick, and The Art of Possibility. Three phenomenal books. I have like literally hundreds of books that have impacted me very well. But
I know. I learned to ask that question differently. I asked you that question because it felt right at the time. But normally I'll be like, what's the book you recommend the most? Because what's your favorite book is, I couldn't answer that question.
It's impossible.
I'd be like, that's ridiculous.
Well, then I would say, oh gosh, I mean,
like the one you recommend the most. Like,
yeah, I'd say the one I recommend the most is probably The Art of Possibility.
Okay.
And then, just because that really gets us thinking different about ourselves, but there isn't just one, because I usually like tying a recommendation to what someone needs in their life.
Right. Good point. Well, Jill, I appreciate you being on. I've taken more than enough of your time, but I appreciate it. It's been wonderful. So tell us when the book comes out, how everybody can buy it, and where they can find you if they want to get a hold of you.
Awesome. So the book officially hits bookstores September, I should know this, 7th. But it's available now as a pre-order on Amazon, or Kindle version on Amazon. And I do have a promotion where I'm giving away free PDF copies through my website. Would love to share a book with any listeners who want to just grab it and read it and see what they think. And you can get that at www.jillmcabe.com, JILLMCABE.com. And there's like a little pop-up. It'll take you right to it. I love promoting the book. Let's help me get it out there. If these concepts are interesting to you, that would be great.
All right. Well, I'll definitely make sure everybody has that link, and make sure that this podcast goes out before then, so that everybody can pre-order it and get a hold of it. But thank you so much, Jill.
Thanks so much for your time, Dalton.